There you go, an iPhone SE, it's here. So this is a smaller body, as you see, compared to my iPhone 11 Pro Max, much smaller. And you also get the return of the home button as well, which is pretty handy in these mask-wearing times since Face ID doesn't exactly help in opening the phones. It's a cheaper model, as you mentioned, $399. That's half the price of the iPhone Pro Max, but just as powerful because you get the same chipset as you do in the more expensive 11 Pro Max line. And this is important because, as we know, a lot of people are losing their jobs right now and also having their pay cuts. So this migration to cheaper phones might be the trend. Also, it'll help Apple in these lower cost countries like the Indias and the Chinas, where they're losing sales to these domestic players that are coming out with cheaper handsets as well. Don't forget, we have Apple and their earnings on Thursday, the 30th. We know it's going to be a pretty tough quarter for Apple because they have said that they probably won't make their sales in the first 3 months of this year. But what's important, obviously, is the guidance, if we get any guidance, and the return back to shareholders, whether in the form of higher dividends, which they have announced each and every year for the past 5-6 years, or more buybacks. And when you take stock out of the market, that increases the price of the stock. Now, Stu, I don't know about you. I prefer a bigger frame because I like reading on it and watching my movies, and obviously it helps with my eyes. But some people say that if you want to put this in your pockets, and I don't carry my phone in my pockets, the smaller body might actually be better for you.
Oh, I'm for the bigger screen. At my age, you need a bigger screen. You don't want to squint all the time. So, give me the big screen, kid.
Exactly.
That's what I want. Take it. Thank you. Ray Wong is with
a piece on Amazon alleging that the online marketplace giant abused its position, also copying a lot of their independent sellers' information, then using it to make their own private label products. Now, this was in the Wall Street Journal, and they interviewed some 20 past employees who say that this was actually common practice at Amazon, where they looked at data from these independent sellers and then used that data to better price, better manufacture Amazon's own private label goods. And one example that they cited was this trunk organizer, best-selling trunk organizer on Amazon back in 2016, made by a small company in Brooklyn. And this employee actually showed the Wall Street Journal a lot of the data points and the reports that they went through so Amazon can develop their own bestseller. By 2019, Amazon developed 3 trunk organizers, which look fairly similar to this. Now, getting in contact with Amazon, they tell us here at Fox that while we don't believe these claims are accurate, we take these allegations very seriously, and we have launched an internal investigation. Amazon says that this practice is illegal. First of all, it goes against the company rules, and there are restrictions to the type of data that employees can see, although the employees say that it's pretty easy to work around these firewalls and restrictions. Now, 58% of Amazon sales comes from these independent party sellers. Only 1% comes from their own private labels. And Amazon has had problems with this in the past. For instance, the European Union last year also alleged that Amazon was abusing its place as a leading online marketplace, launching an investigation into the possible abuse of its position being the marketplace and then also a seller of its own goods as well. But, you know, Neil, that hasn't really stopped the stock so far this year. In fact, we've seen record highs in this uncertain time, and that's because sales are booming with people stuck at home. And what do? They go on Amazon and actually stream on Amazon Prime as well.
You know, it's interesting because the president also addressed the Amazon situation that the post office is essentially getting hosed because it's, delivering all those Amazon packages, and it should be charging a lot more for that service. I wonder if that's going to have any traction on the stock, if it looks like this is going to be a concerted effort to do so.
But you know, Neil, actually that's not true anymore because Amazon is shipping their own goods. In fact, they're going to ship more goods than UPS and FedEx in the future. So I think the problem with their post office is that Amazon isn't shipping their packages through them anymore.
That's a very important distinction, and I wanted you to say that.
Oh.
Because that is the fact.
Smart.
All right, Susan Lee.
Get a piece, front page of the newspaper, alleging that Amazon abused its position as a leading online marketplace in the U.S., but then using the data from these independent sellers to better make their own private label products. So they spoke to 20 past employees who say that this was common practice inside Amazon, and they did look at certain data points and also reports on certain products to make very similar ones for Amazon's own private label. They reference one specific example in this report, and that's a trunk organizer made by a small company in Brooklyn, bestseller on Amazon's website. But then one of the employees said that she looked at data points and looked at some of the best ways to produce, manufacture, and price this type of product. And eventually in 2019, you had Amazon launching 3 trunk organizers that looked fairly similar to the original. Now, speaking to Amazon, they give us a statement saying that while we don't believe that these claims are accurate in this report, we take these allegations very seriously and have launched an internal investigation. Amazon says that this practice does not sit with the Amazon's corporate playbook, and also they say that there are restrictions to what type of data that employees can access. However, in this report, the employees say that it's pretty easy to get around these firewalls and to look at the specific data points. Now, we have 45 brands being launched by Amazon's private label, 243,000 products, but Amazon says it only makes up 1% of their sales. Now, they have been alleged to also abuse their position as a leading online marketplace over on the European Union side, because the EU started this investigation last year looking into Amazon and whether or not, as a marketplace and then seller of its own private label goods, it has actually abused its own position. But Charles, if you look at the stock price, we've hit record highs just in the past week, and orders are spiking. They're hiring 175,000 workers, and it is boom time and high demand still for products ordered online. It's not good for Amazon and its employee base, obviously. So this Amazon warehouse is in Carteret, New Jersey. Apparently 30 employees, according to Business Insider reporting, have contracted COVID-19. And they say that it looks like unlimited time, unpaid time off in April, on April 30th expires. What does that mean? That means if you have coronavirus, you are expected to still show up to work even after 2 weeks have passed. And there are complaints about worker conditions. For instance, there are 500 workers in this warehouse at once during the day shift. What about social distancing? What about PPE? You know, we've seen numerous walkouts across multiple Amazon warehouses and fulfillment centers across the country because people are concerned that they are not given the right equipment. They're asked to work really strict hourly shifts, and they don't feel that they are being taken care of. Now, as many as 50 Amazon facilities across the U.S. have employees that have tested positive for COVID-19, according to numerous reports. But Amazon says that they are trying to do all they can. And as we mentioned, Stu, you know, Jeff Bezos, the man who has really delegated day-to-day to his lower-level lieutenants, has now stepped back into the fray because of COVID-19. Yes, it's boom time, but also to make sure that the company doesn't lose its way and keeps its image, right? And I noticed that with Amazon at $2,400 a share, Jeff Bezos is now worth about $145 billion. That's a lot of money. Have we all got a case of that? New phenomenon. So the feeling of tiredness, anxiousness, or worry of yet another video call, because it's psychologically off-putting from having to focus, 15 people or more in a gallery at once, and you're worrying how you look, how you speak, and a number of things. And it makes people feel anxious and worried on these video calls. But despite that, though, we have Zoom video hitting a record high today. You know why, Stu? Because it hit 300 million daily active users. Whoa. That's up from 10 million at the end of December. So, the Zoom fatigue doesn't seem to be fitting in with these numbers. It seems like only last week you were telling us they'd hit 200 million. Now it's 300 million. That's right. No wonder the stock is up. Warning actually coming from the FDA on this Friday morning. They say that they are advising consumers against taking chloroquine and hydroxychloroquine to treat COVID-19, and they don't want this to happen outside of a hospital after serious poisoning and deaths that were reported as a result. So the agency says that it has become aware of reports of serious heart rhythm problems in patients with the virus who were treated with hydroxychloroquine or chloroquine, along with Z-Pak, which is azithromycin as well. And they're warning physicians against prescribing the drugs to treat the coronavirus outside of a hospital. Don't forget, the FDA has approved an emergency use of hydroxychloroquine and chloroquine, but they're saying outside of a hospital, please don't do it on your own. Okay, I hear you. I think the media will jump on that. The CEO of AT&T is stepping down, retiring, but he'll continue to serve as executive chairman of the board until next year, January 2021. Stepping in as CEO, not a surprise here, the head of Warner Media, John Stankey. He was the one that drove AT&T's acquisition of DirecTV, and given that AT&T purchased Warner Media back in 2016 for $108 billion, I think it's been clearly signaled that productions streaming was the future for this company, and John Stankey is in charge of all of that. By the way, they are launching HBO Max on May 27th, and it looks like streaming content production is a future merged with the telco.
Did you say 108 billion? I'd forgotten we were dealing in terms that big.
M&A, yeah.
They're huge. All right, thanks very much, Susan. AT&T just below $30 a share.
Well, yeah, because they said that the findings were inconclusive and the study was terminated early because they couldn't find enough of those participants. And this was actually posted by the WHO, a draft document that was posted and then reported on by the FT and Stat News. And it said that remdesivir failed in a trial in China. Gilead immediately said that this is not true. That's because we didn't get enough participants in this trial. In fact, they refer us back to the University of Chicago trial that was recently successful. In fact, nearly every participant was treated with remdesivir and actually either showed signs of, I guess, of the symptoms being reduced or they went home healthy. So Gilead today is saying this is not the case.